Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 943. I had the white pieces and started off with e4. My opponent went c5, go knight f3, and he goes d6. So a normal Sicilian so far. I go d4, going for an open Sicilian. He takes, I take. And then he plays knight c6. You can see knight c6 is the second choice, but it's a very rare move and maybe even a slight mistake. But it's not a big deal, I'm sure. This is a playable opening too. But it does give white a chance to play Maroczy bind position with c4. And I think that's the most principled way to play this position and probably leads to the biggest edge for white. The chess engine seems to like it as well. If you just play knight to c3, then yeah, black can go knight f6 and get into a classical Sicilian. So it's just like he had played it in the correct move order. So c4 is a way to disrupt things. So that's what I played. He went queen b6 here, a bit of a rare response, but maybe he's worked out this line himself. Knight f6 would be a typical way to play, and after knight c3, g6, and we've transposed into a dragon, a Maroczy bind against the Sicilian dragon. So that'd be kind of a mainline position. But he went with queen f3, or queen b6 rather. So he's piling up on my knight. And I took here, which is, well, you can see we're in a rare section of the database. The main move here, the only move in the database is knight b3 and knight c6. We're out of the database. It's not a bad move, but it's maybe not, it's not in keeping with the idea of playing a Maroczy bind. That's why I called this a Maroczy bind attempt, because after the exchange, he takes with a pawn. He's got 3 pawns against 2 in the center. I never really get that Maroczy bind setup going to great effect. And when you play the Maroczy bind, you want to keep the pieces on and try and exploit white's lack of space for his pieces. So knight b3 seems to be the way to deal with it. The thing I was worried about here is there's this constant pressure of the queen on b2. You know, I wanted to get in the move bishop to e3, but I didn't want to leave that pawn, and leaving that pawn is not a good idea in this position. Sometimes you can get away with that. Sometimes you can just sack that pawn, but in this case, no, you need to hold on to it for a little bit longer. But knight b3 is something that kind of fits the bill. It blocks the queen's view of the b pawn, keeps the pieces on, and I can play bishop e3 later and get into a very typical Maroczy setup, although this knight will probably have to move again. b3 is not the best square for that knight, but say knight f6, knight c3, e6, bishop e3. This would be a very typical way to continue, and you can see we're well on the way to getting a real Maroczy bind setup. Anyway, in the game, I played the move knight takes c6, yeah, and we're just out of the opening book at this point. He could take back either way. There are advantages to both, but I kind of like the way he played it. He takes back with the pawn, and he's got more pawns in the center than I do. But well, I keep developing now. I've got decent development. He goes e5, go bishop e2, and all this seems to be fine. Knight f6, there's maybe some slight edge to white, but not a big deal. I castle, and then he goes h6. Now h6 was criticized by the chess engine, so this might you might consider this the first slight mistake by black after the opening. You know, you consider the opening black's choice. He chooses to play this way. Maybe not the best, but maybe gets a position he wants or is familiar with. But here, just normal development is fine. The thing is, I mean, it's true I can bring my bishop out here and put some pressure on the knight, but he's always got his bishop here coming to e7. In fact, there's no other square for that bishop, so you know it's going there. So I'll never get a pin. At the most the most I can do is threaten to take his knight. And so my bishop is not going to be that effective there, so there's no need to prevent it by playing h6. So yeah, just developing with bishop e7 would be fine there. And here I went queen c2. That seems to be okay. The chess engine slightly prefers queen d3, but yeah, let's just continue with the game. We get some good moves here. He plays rook b8, I play b3, plays bishop e7, getting his pieces out. I play bishop e3, kicking the queen. Queen drops back. Bring my rook to the center, and the chess engine liked this move a lot. It actually wanted me to play that. Before I developed the bishop, it even wanted me to bring the other rook to the center. Just sees this nice open file here and says, or half open, with a pawn at the back, and says, well, you should put a rook on there. So eventually I do that, and this seems to be fine. He castles. Then I play bishop f3. So this may be the first slightly questionable move for me. I was just trying to get my knight into play. It wasn't that I thought this bishop would be so great here, but I was giving the knight a square and a way to come around into the game like this. So it's not a terrible move, but the chess engine finds another way to activate the knight, which I thought is pretty clever, and so I thought I'd share it with you. It just throws this pawn forward, and you know, it looks like a pawn sack, but it's actually not a pawn sack because knight a5, and you're rounding that pawn up, and you're leaving black with two isolated pawns. So that c5 move is a very nice maneuver, and one. I think I looked at the c5 move and I said, oh, it just loses a pawn. I didn't think of the knight a4 follow-up to just gather that pawn back and activate the knight. So clever play from the chess engine, and I think a very good way to play it. Okay, let's back to the game here. So I went bishop f3 here. He went bishop e6. So he's looking forward maybe to playing that d5 move. I don't know if he ever got it in the game. I don't remember at this point, but it was definitely something that he should have. However, there were times he had opportunities to play that. Maybe my attack got going too quick. Anyway, I play queen d2 here, keeping pressure on the center. And let's see, he went knight g4. And at this point, I didn't want to give up the dark squared bishop. I just wanted to... I figured I would have to give up one of these bishops. I'd rather give up the light squared one. And the chess engine agrees with that. It thinks bishop g4, bishop takes g4 is the best move. So he takes back. I kick the bishop. Bishop drops back. The bishop was looking at my rook there, so I had to respond somehow. But also this pawn formation is very typical of these Maroczy bind positions. And with this e-pawn securely defended, the knight is free to come around once again and activate. And let's see, but at this point, I kind of changed my mind. I wasn't sure where the knight was going after it goes to e2. So after his bishop retreated, I went with f4, tried to open things up that way. g4 in this position is also a playable move. But after f4, black made another mistake. I think this is a real mistake, not just an inaccuracy or a slow move. He played f6. And allowed me to push on with f5. And this is really dangerous for black. I think even if the chess engine hadn't rated this as pretty much winning for white, I would have still classified this as a mistake, because it's so hard to defend these positions when you don't have this space around your king. If he had a knight on this square that I couldn't chase away, if he had managed to get a knight to g5, and I didn't have a move like h4 to chase it away, then he might have a chance here. But I think this is pretty close to losing. So let's back up. f4, what should he play here? I was expecting him to take right away. That seems to be a pretty instinctive move to me, although it does leave him with a weak d-pawn, but that's better than getting squashed on the king's side. The chess engine gives this line. First of all, the bishop can come right back to g4. You know, I played f3 to kick the bishop back, and I played f4, so the bishop can come right back here and attack my rook. Let's see, I could play knight e2 now to interpose, and then he could take, and I would take with the bishop. And as I said, I get pressure here. But, well, he's got an active position for his bishop, and he's got the bishop pair. So it seems like there's compensation. I think white is still better here, but you know, that's black has chances too. So it's no longer just a winning. Well, it's not a winning position. It's maybe slightly better for white, but nothing great. It's just a game. But after f6, I think I have pretty much a winning edge, although I don't necessarily pursue it the best way, but I do pretty well. Let's see. He dropped his bishop back to f7, and then I was wondering here if I could go ahead and take right away, and eventually I decided to play rook f3 to prepare the bishop takes h6. But in fact, I could have taken immediately. And if he takes back after queen takes h6, the chess engine just rates this as winning for white. It gives white a +8 advantage or something. The point is the rook is coming over very quickly here, and there's no easy escape. I just wasn't sure. I mean, it takes me a couple moves to get out there, and he's got a couple of moves to try and rearrange his pieces, so it just wasn't entirely clear to me in the game. But the chess engine is pretty confident here that I'm just winning. So I should probably try things like that. Anyway, I played Rook F3. Oh, after Bishop H6, by the way, his best move is D5. This is an opportunity for him to play D5 and just ignore this for the moment. I don't have an immediate threat on G7, and he can counterattack the center. So maybe that's why Bishop H6 doesn't win. It just nets me a pawn, and I have an attack to look forward to. Anyway, let's back up to the game. In the game, I played Rook F3. And only after I played it did I notice that he has this bishop skewer here. And I thought, well, I've got Rook G3 coming anyway. It's probably okay. And in fact, it is okay. So Bishop H5, Rook G3. It's okay in the sense that this position is playable, but it's also playable for black. So I've kind of, if I had a winning edge there, I've kind of given it up at this point. I think this is pretty tricky. Let's see. He can take the rook. I can take the pawn. And then he can play Rook F7 here to defend. And then I take his bishop. So what's going on here? I've sacrificed the exchange here. I've got a knight for a rook, basically. And I've got an attack going against his exposed king. So this looks very dangerous to me, but the chess engine says black can defend with accurate play. So I don't know. I'd still be happy to be white in this position. So let's go back to the game. So I don't think Rook F3 even was such a huge mistake, although it was a blunder from the point of view of not noticing that move. Should have noticed that before I played it. Anyway, he didn't take advantage of that. He just played Rook F to D8. So he's thinking about pushing that pawn in the center, but he somehow never gets around to it. Well, now my attack is just breaking through. He can put up the best fight for black is to go King F8. That's where he gets, that's his best try. And now he's actually threatening to take the bishop, because if he takes here, take with the queen, then his king can run to safety to this square and to this square. So actually I have to retreat the bishop here. And I've snagged a pawn. But, well, there's this threat on the diagonal is still there. And, you know, his king is exposed. Anyway, it seems to be a game with chances for both sides after that. But he played Bishop H5 here, and that really is the losing move. I think I keep a winning edge from here on out. So I play Rook G3. There's one really cool tactic here, actually, with Rook to H3. I just wanted to point this out. Letting him take my rook. The chess engine found this one, of course. So he's taking my rook. I take a pawn here, and it's too dangerous for him to take back. I guess he takes here, my queen comes in with check. Looks pretty bad. And the queen can go here with check, and then the rook comes in. Yeah, so he's probably getting mated there. So the king runs. King runs to F7. And then here's the really cool part of it. Knight to D5. And if he takes the knight, then the queen check leads to a forced mate. There's a mate in 4 or 5 here. So his king is just trapped. He can't run away because, let's see, why can't it run away? It would seem like it might be able to get out this way, huh? Oh, the queen can come into this square. Anyway, yeah, the king can't escape from here. So I can place the knight on D5 and it can't be taken. So he has to move the queen. And then I can take the bishop back and then bring my queen in this way. And this also is just winning for white. So that starts with Rook G3. That's a pretty clever move, letting him take and then that follow up with Knight D5. Something I would not have thought of in a slow game. I mean, in a blitz game especially, but maybe not even in a slow game. It hadn't occurred to me. It's an idea. I guess this is something to keep your eye on. You know, if you can sacrifice a piece here on the D5 square, it's kind of thematic actually in the Maroczy bind. And just to get a queen there with a good diagonal after distracting this bishop. So anyway, nice tactics there. I played Rook G3. This is still winning, so I can't say it's a mistake, but that was a little bit nicer, a little bit stronger. Let's see. So he dropped. Oh no, he brought his other bishop back to defend here, right? I'm just piling up on the F7 square. So I played Rook E1, just getting the rook away from the bishop and maybe preparing to lift it. Let's see, played king h7, attacking my bishop, and I just dropped back. Here is another chance for a nice tactic. If you want to see if you can spot the tactic this time, see if you can find the idea here. It's a little simpler than the last one. Okay, pause the video if you want time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. I can just take this pawn. I think I actually thought about this a little bit. He has to take back with the bishop if he doesn't want to just lose that pawn for nothing. He can't take with the queen because I'm covering with the rook, and he can't take with the king, but he can take with the bishop. But now I have rook to h3, and this is a pin, and my queen is guarding this square and my pawn is guarding this square. So I grabbed a pawn and I get the bishop back, so I've just won a pawn and my attack continues. I've just cleared away another bit of pawn cover in front of his king, so that is winning as well. This is still winning, bishop e3. Let's see, he tried g5 here, and I took en passant. He took back. Then I just bring my queen over to finish him off here. He brings his queen over to defend. Just bring my queen out to g4, plays bishop to h6, and now I have this nice pin with the rook to h3 again. Plays queen g7 trying to defend everything, but it's really hopeless because it's attacked by a bishop and a rook, and it's defended by a queen. So he's losing material here one way or another. And of course the king can't run away, because if the king goes here, the rook takes the bishop and skewers the queen. So he's just got to take at this point. And after a couple more moves, he decided to resign. What is this? I've got a rook, a knight, and a queen, and he's got 2 rooks and a bishop. So I'm basically, if you think the queen is equivalent to 2 rooks, roughly, and the bishop to the knight, I'm basically a whole rook up, plus his king is exposed. So anyway, fun game, a lot of interesting tactics. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye.